Hello everyone. Welcome to our lesson about adjectives and adverbs. Take a look at this presentation on this video before you work on your packet for this week, and hopefully you'll do better on it than you did last week and be able to pass the test and move on to prepositions. Here's the lesson that's at the top of your packet. It explains what an adjective is. Adjectives can answer several different types of questions. First of all, what kind, which one or ones, and how much or how many. For example, steep here is modifying the word trail, green modifying the word meadow, first modifying the word stream, for modifies the word hikers, and the word much is modifying the word food. These are several different kinds of adjectives that can answer any of these three questions: what kind, which one or one, or how many or how much. Another type of adjective that is often easy to forget are the articles. Articles are the words a, an, and the. These are always adjectives, as in a hike, a is modifying hike, the is modifying map. So whenever you have the instructions say for you to include the articles when you're identifying adjectives, make sure you identify all the words a, an, and the. Another common set of adjectives that are often overlooked are proper adjectives. Now look at this chart right here. Asia can be turned into the adjective Asian. So let's say that you wanted to talk about food. Instead of saying it was Asia food, you would say it was Asian food, right? Because Asian is how you modify that word food. It's an adjective. Same thing with Mexico and Mexican. It's not Mexico food, it's Mexican food. Let me give you just a couple more examples. Let's say that we had a car from America. You could just as easily say American car. So this word, America, this proper noun, has become a proper adjective, American, which in this case is modifying car. So when you see capitalized words that are modifying other nouns in these sentences, make sure you identify them as adjectives. Here's the first exercise on this assignment. This one asks you to underline all the adjectives in each sentence, including the articles. So now remember, the articles are the words a, an, and the. So anytime you see a, an, and the, make sure that you include them. Let's do the first one together. Since we're including the articles, we need to underline a because it's modifying this word friend. Which friend? A friend. Another time, here we go. A, that's an article, always an adjective, and it's modifying trip. And then finally, the, also an article, is modifying Alps. And here we have our first proper adjective, Swiss. Swiss is modifying the Alps. What type of Alps are they? They are the Swiss Alps. Let me do the next one for you. Here is an adjective, beautiful. It's modifying scenery. And great is modifying exercise. So what I'd like for you to do is go ahead and finish the rest of this exercise and then pause the video. Well, actually, go ahead and pause the video right now, finish the exercise, and then hit start and we'll go on to the next piece. Alright, now that you've done our first exercise, here's the next exercise. This asks you to identify an adjective and the word it modifies. So it says to underline each adjective once and underline the word it modifies twice. It also wants you to circle the proper adjectives. Here, I'll show you how to do the first one. Since these adjectives to and old are modifying prospectors, we underline to and old once and prospectors twice. Look for another adjective modifying a noun in this sentence. Weary modifies mule. Notice that in the directions it says to ignore the articles, so I did not include a. Likewise, I would not include the. I'm going to show you number 3 and say there's more than one adjective in this sentence, but in this case, English is modifying muffins. So English is underlined once, muffins is underlined twice, and notice that it says circle the proper adjectives. Since English is a proper adjective, that is an adjective made out of a proper noun, you want to circle that one just to show that you know that it's not just an adjective but a proper adjective. So complete the rest of this assignment and the writing adjectives assignment before moving on. So go ahead and pause the video, do these pieces of your workbook, and then we'll move on to the next page. On this page, it asks you to use adjectives in sentences. So instead of just identifying the adjectives, you're going to actually have to use them in sentences, which is the real reason we learn adjectives, right? So, for example, in their first example that they give here, they want you to use the word scary, and they've given you the example that the word scary could modify story. So they used scary to modify story. Here, I'll do one for you on number 1. My job here is to use the word shiny to modify some other word. So here we go. I'll try and do that for you. Here we have the boy liked his shiny shoes. In this case, the adjective shiny is modifying shoes. Go ahead and fill out the rest of these in the same fashion, and when you finish this page, move on to the next one. Here's a new kind of adjective that we're going to learn about. Usually, you have one adjective that comes right before a noun it modifies. Here, let me give you an example. In these two sentences, the word green is always modifying truck. What kind of truck is it? It's green. So in the first sentence is the normal way that we've been looking at adjectives so far. And the second sentence is what's called a predicate adjective. Notice right here, predicate adjectives. That's what we're talking about. Instead of having the adjective go before the noun, like in this case up here where green comes before the truck, what you have is the noun coming first, a linking verb, and then afterwards you have the adjective. So in this case, green is still modifying truck even though it comes after. This is called a predicate adjective. It's where the noun comes first and is separated from the adjective by a linking verb. There are a few other cases where linking verbs can be kind of tricky, and I want to give you an example. So we've already talked about how in this sentence Bob has a green truck. Green modifies truck. But even if you say Bob's truck is green, green is still modifying truck. Now in this third sentence is a particularly tricky one. The truck by the barn is green. A lot of people tend to think that green in this case is modifying barn, but that's not the case. By the barn is modifying truck and green is actually modifying truck. So what you want to make sure is ask yourself, is this sentence saying that the barn is green or is it saying that the truck is green? This exercise that we're about to do is going to throw a lot of these at you, so make sure that you ask yourself, what is the adjective referring to? So, here we have your exercise that you should be working on predicate adjectives. Notice that, first of all, every time there is a predicate adjective, it is linked to the word it's modifying by a linking verb. Was, same thing. On this one, impossible is modifying seemed, and impossible is modifying catastrophe, and seemed is the linking verb here. So let's take a look at some of our actual questions down here. First of all, we're looking for, in number 1, we're looking for a sentence where a noun is linked to an adjective by a linking verb. In this case, we're saying that the largest is the adjective, it is modifying Titanic, and was is our linking verb. Again, on the next sentence, we have the same situation. Was is our linking verb, unsinkable is our adjective, and it's modifying it. It is referring back to the Titanic. So remember that predicate adjectives can modify pronouns as well. There's one more, there are several more questions on this exercise, and I want you to go ahead and finish it, and go ahead and pause the video, finish that exercise, and then I want you to move on to lesson 3, which is going to be on the next slide. So just hit play when you're done with this exercise. This page is about other words used as adjectives. Not just exclusively adjectives, but sometimes you can use noun and pronouns as adjectives. For example, that is a pronoun that's modifying city. There is a pronoun that's modifying homes. And many is a pronoun that's modifying people. And in this case, you can use a noun, like the word ash. That is a person, place, or thing, right? But when you have it before the word piles, it's telling you what kind of piles they are. They are ash piles. I'm going to list off a few additional pronouns, not just that, there, and many, but also my, your, our, those, these, and several other words can be used to modify nouns. And these are all pronouns. They're not just adjectives. They're pronouns that can be used to modify nouns. Let's take a look at our first question. Pompeii was a thriving port town in ancient Italy. Notice that the instructions right here say to underline the nouns or pronouns that are used as adjectives in each sentence. So this word, port, is a noun. It's a person, place, or thing, but in this case it's being used to modify town. So we would underline that one as a pronoun used to modify a noun. Again, many is a pronoun that is being used to modify Romans. And there is one of those pronouns that is modifying homes. So go ahead and do the remainder of this assignment. Pause the video before you start working on it, and then we will move on to adverbs on the next slide. So we're going to start talking about another part of speech now. We're moving from adjectives, which we've been working on so far, to adverbs. Adverbs are similar to adjectives because they modify other words in the sentence. What's different about adverbs is that they don't modify nouns. They can modify 3 different parts of speech. It can modify a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. So, in this case right here, the first one, the word travels is a verb because it's telling what Ernie does. It's an action that he's doing. The word never is an adverb because it is modifying the verb travels. So, if it modifies a verb, you know that it's an adverb. Next one is modifying an adjective. This adjective right here, careful, is telling us about him. Notice it's a predicate adjective. It comes after is. So careful is modifying he. So the word always right here is an adverb because it is modifying that adjective, telling us about how careful he is or at what times he's careful. He's always careful. Now, this last sentence, this is where it gets kind of tricky. Adverbs can modify other adverbs. You can put as many of them up against one another as you want. So in this case, early is an adverb modifying gets. It's telling us how he gets to the airport or when he gets to the airport. So that makes early an adverb. And then the word very is an intensifier. It's telling us that he's extra early. He's more early than just early. He's very early. So very, in that case, would be an adverb. So intensifiers, it's talking about here, are adverbs that modify adjectives or other adverbs. They usually come directly before the word they modify, and they usually answer the question to what extent or how much. So here are some more adverbs. Take a look at this chart and notice that most of, or I should say a lot of adverbs end in ly, like immediately or correctly or completely or entirely. So if you're having a really hard time finding adverbs, a good place to start is look for the word that ends in ly and then ask yourself what word it modifies. Another thing that you can do is take adjectives like right here, rapid, gentle, and heavy, and you can turn them into adverbs like rapidly, gently, and heavily just by adding the ly to the end of the word. So you wouldn't say, I rapid ran down the hall. You would, however, say, I rapidly ran down the hall, or I gently ran down the hall. That's because you have to have an adverb to modify a verb like ran. So let's take a look at a couple of examples on the exercise on this page. So this question asks you to underline all the adverbs in each sentence. If there are no adverbs in a sentence, write none on the line to the right. There are actually no lines on the page, I realize that, so you have to make your own lines, or you can just write none next to the sentence. That would be fine with me. So in this first one, when we're looking for an adverb, a good place to start is to find the words that it could possibly modify. So in this case, were is a verb, and would and travel are verbs, and rich is an adjective. So, are any of these words modified by another word? Well, it turns out that very is modifying rich, which would make it an adverb. Rich is an adjective, and if it's modified by an adverb, that's an intensifier, that would make it an adverb. Let's look at the next one. Here are some adjectives: my best, and here's a verb, went, and here is another adjective, afraid, and the verb is. So, do we see any words that are modifying the adjectives or the verbs in this sentence? In this case, we could use the old ly trick. We could say nearly went, and surprisingly is an adverb, and in this case is modifying the adjective afraid. How afraid is she? She's surprisingly afraid. So I'm going to let you just go ahead and finish the rest of this assignment, and then flip the page, and we will have a look at the next exercise in this packet. Here is our next exercise. It asks us to underline the adverbs in the following sentence and draw an arrow from each adverb to the word it modifies. In this case, the word playfully is an adverb, and it's modifying the verb scampered. In this case, up is an adverb, and it's modifying the verb looked. So ask yourself, find the verb and ask yourself if it's being modified by another word in the sentence. How did Cleo scamper? He scampered playfully. How did we look? We looked up. So go through the rest of this and finish all of these, and then you'll have three more exercises that ask you to use adverbs in sentences. And I'll give you just a quick example of how to do that on the next page, and then you'll be finished with your packet. This exercise asks you to complete each sentence with an adverb. So find an adverb and put it on the line that is given for you. For example, and the great thing about these exercises is that you can use all sorts of different adverbs. I'll give you 3 examples just on the first one. Here I've used the adverb early. When you arrive at the airport, when you fly, it's best to arrive at the airport early. How do you arrive at the airport? Early. So early is modifying arrive. Here's another one. When you fly, it's best to arrive at the airport quickly. Notice that even though I've changed the adverb quickly is still describing how you arrive at the airport. How should you arrive at the airport quickly? Here, I'll give you one more example. Alright, my last example for this one. When you fly, it's best to arrive at the airport alone. Now, alone, even though it doesn't end in ly, is still telling us how one should arrive at the airport. What condition should you be in when you arrive at the airport? That is, alone. So, go ahead and finish the rest of this assignment, and then there's another exercise on the back page. Now, remember, when you have trouble with these, go ahead and get my attention, and I'll try to help you. Remember, the point of these exercises is not to get everything right, but to be ready to pass the test so you can move on from adjectives and adverbs to prepositions. So, good luck on that, guys. Bye.